So this one's not really going to be a political video, but it's just going to be some things I was kind of about some things I was kind of thinking about, pondering about life, let's just say. Um, I was feeling a bit angry this morning about a lot of things actually, so I decided, in order to rest my racing mind, to take a seat in front of my bedroom window where you can look outside. And after a few minutes, my brain finally calmed down and stopped thinking of every worst case scenario and how I would handle it or fight for myself. And I just stared outside, and I heard the birds chirping, and I wondered, well, why can't I see any of those birds? Because I certainly hear all those very shrill, bright chirping sounds, but I cannot see a single one of those birds. How do they hide so well under the leaves and trees? And I just kind of looked outside at how peaceful it was and suddenly remembered something one of my professors said to me when I was just feeling a bit lost and frustrated. And she told me, never let a test define you. Never let a test score define you, and the fact that you are not able to pass at something, or I suppose succeed at something in the exact way that you want it to. Never let that define you, because you, in essence, are just than so much more than that. And no matter what happens, no matter what society says or what judgments they make, don't look at any of that as a waste or a failure or a personal flaw that you really internalize. Um, Sometimes, big opportunities do pass us by. Sometimes we don't get the extra chance we need, but ultimately, if if one is able to view everything as a learning experience, it's a lot easier to keep moving forward. And as long as one keeps moving forward, well, really not much will be able to stop you or me. And it's very hard for me to remember this sometimes, especially when it feels like the world is just nonsensical and people do things backwards, and they do things backwards on purpose. And sometimes, and it seems like nothing makes sense and nothing is right. And I have to remind myself of this. And then sometimes I just have to look outside and stare at the pretty flowers, or observe the shades of bright yellow on the green leaves, and how that yellow tint of the leaves on the tree outside is just amplified whenever the sunlight starts shining on it. And sometimes I just have to remember to look at the world as it is instead of picking it apart for everything that doesn't make sense or everything that's unfair. And I just have to sometimes remember to look at the world like nature, like something that just exists, and you don't try to make sense of it. It's kind of like the sea. The sea is initially, I mean, the sea is sometimes calm. Many times it's calm, and boats and ships and various forms of sea transportation are just able to easily navigate through it. And when that very same sea that was once calm and placid, uh, that sea can turn into a giant hurricane or tsunami that then just starts destroying everything. And even though now there is a very well explained scientific basis as to why this happens, well, it's still too easy to look at such a destructive situation and go, well, why does this have to happen? Wouldn't it be easier if the cold fronts and the warm fronts and the winds and the water in our sea just behaved? Wouldn't it be easier if they just behaved. And, you know, if why does it do all these kind of nonsensical, destructive things that make things harder for everybody? Um, if it didn't do that, we wouldn't have to be losing our cargo. We wouldn't have all our buildings destroyed, and we wouldn't have to spend extra money restoring all of this. We wouldn't have to, build levees and other types of protective barriers. We wouldn't have to lose our children and our spouses. We wouldn't have people looting our stores in hunger after everything they've lost. We wouldn't have to suffer for years. Wouldn't it just be wonderful if our seas didn't do this nonsensical thing? Why does it do this? And then I came to realize that the world and society is very much like that sea sometimes. Calm at certain times, and then at other times like a giant tsunami or a hurricane. And then I thought about the times that I was like that sea, and I ended up sabotaging myself, and in the process unintentionally hurt some people around me, or sometimes out of my anger, intentionally hurt some people around me. And then I beat myself up for a long time thinking, why did I do that when I could have had my life together? If I just hadn't acted that way or done that, why? Why do I keep destroying myself? Why am I like this? Why can't I just be still and allow things to work out properly? And why can't I just do things right? Why do I act in a way that doesn't make sense? And then that's when I kind of came to realize that similarly, a lot of stuff in this world works in a way that doesn't make sense. And that also impacts me negatively, and that me and the world are kind of exchanging these nonsensical energies. And when I realized this, I not only stopped carrying all that weight, but I was also finally able to forgive myself, finally able to forgive myself, forgive the sea, forgive society a bit, and just look at it as it is and just say, well, this is just how things are, I suppose. And that's all, for better and for worse. And sometimes they're much better, and other times they are much more worse. And right now it feels like we're in the season of the tsunami when it comes to society. And maybe I don't need to explain it away. The same way that I don't need to keep explaining myself and how I've just been trying to survive through that in my own chaotic ways. And maybe I should just allow it to occur like everything else in nature. So yeah, to anyone out there that is really just beating themselves up and struggling with unnecessary perfectionism and the feelings of feeling like a burden and just feeling like you're not far enough or good enough or are not supposed to exist in this world. I really hope that you listen to this and really change your perspective on a lot of things, but especially on yourself.